On today's show, it is mid-August. The Dead Zone is here, and we're answering your mailbag questions about the Atlanta Hawks, and it's coming up right now.
You are Locked On Hawks, your daily Atlanta Hawks podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Hello, friends. Welcome to episode 2037 of the Locked On Hawks podcast. I am your host, Brad Rowland, coming to you deep in the night here on a Tuesday evening into Wednesday. And today's podcast is brought to you by the folks at FanDuel Sportsbook. Football season is around the corner, and you can visit the FanDuel app today and start planning your futures bets right now. I also want to encourage you at the top of the show to make Locked On Hawks your first listen each and every day. Check us out and subscribe to the podcast anywhere you find your podcast. That includes Apple and Spotify. We're also on YouTube. So please like this video as you're watching it and tell your friends about the show right now. And before we dive into a mailbag-driven episode of Locked On Hawks, I should tell you at the top of the podcast, we've been busy already in the month of August. We're not slowing down at all. I referenced actually on Monday's show that there were 3 Hawks exhibition/preseason games that were already kind of known because they were announced by other teams. And then the Hawks officially announced their schedule for the exhibition slate after I posted the episode on Monday afternoon. And now the full schedule is as follows: October 6th in Houston, October 11th in Memphis, then the home preseason opener on October 13th against Miami, and then the home finale on October 16th against Houston. The game that we did not know originally was that Miami game, so there you go. A 4-game slate for the Hawks in the preseason, if you're looking forward to marking your calendars on that. Also, one of the 82 regular season games has been scheduled now for the Hawks and confirmed on Tuesday. The NBA has been like some leaking out targeted information on some high-profile stuff in advance of the widespread release of the schedule on Thursday. And the Hawks were, as part of the MLK Day schedule this year, will be hosting the Bucks at 1 p.m. Eastern time on that Monday in January. The Hawks should always have a game on that day. I'm glad they do this year. Last year they did not. I'll get into more of that when I do a full schedule breakdown on Thursday afternoon/evening when it comes out. But that's all the kind of news stuff for now. Everything else I point you to most recent episodes on the show. I did a show on Monday. I've done player capsules with Glenn Willis, etc. And there's more to come on the pod as always. All right, with that said, we will dive in now to your mailbag questions. And by the way, the mailbag is always open 24/7. You can find me at BT Rowland on X/Twitter and also on Blue Sky. You can find the show on Twitter at Locked On Hawks. If you want to send a longer question in, you can do that at lockedonhawks@gmail.com. And then also I am on Patreon at patreon.com/BT Rowland. So send questions, whatever you want to. I won't get to all of them, but I have a backlog and a catalog of questions to answer, and I will get to some of those right now on the pod. All right, first and foremost on this episode comes from Travis. The Hawks seem to have a top 7 in the rotation that is pretty clear. But who would you currently project to be the 8th most player in minutes? What about 9th? And what about 10th? So I will obviously have lots of deep dive thoughts on the rotation as we get into training camp in October, etc. But it's probably a good chance to go and do this now a little bit in the midst of the dead zone, and also before we get some actual reporting, before I start hearing from people around the team about training camp, kind of a in a vacuum projection of the 8, 9, and 10 spots in the rotation. So the question sort of alludes to this, but I've said this many times. The Hawks have a clear top 7. And for me, they have 7 starters on this year's roster. It's Trae, it's Dyson, it's Nickeil Alexander-Walker, it's Zachary Shai, Jalen Johnson, Porzingis, and Okongwu. All 7 of those guys are starting caliber players. And I actually mean that. I think most teams do not have 7 starters, honestly. And that's part of why I like the Hawks so much this year. Compared to previous years, they have more depth and more quality depth at the top of the roster. And there you go. That's the top 7. Now, the question that was actually asked was about 8, 9, and 10. Directly, I will say Luke Kennard is number 8, and I'm pretty confident about that. Before I keep going on this, I want to give the caveat that injuries impact all of this stuff when it comes to projecting who's going to actually play the most minutes over the course of the season. Not always injuries to that player, but also positional injuries, etc. For one example here about Kennard, I think he's going to play some point guard this year, at least on offense. And I think he'd play even more if Trae went down, for example. He'd play more if Dyson went down or if Nickeil was down, etc. But regardless, I think Kennard is the 8th best player on the team pretty clearly right now as far as what's been proven on an NBA court. Obviously, there are scenarios when someone like Mo Gay, for example, is better than Kennard this year. Very possible. But right now, Kennard has proven a lot more than Mo has. He's one of the best shooters in the world. Full stop. That might sound outlandish. I promise you it's not. He is the active career three-point percentage leader in the NBA. He's that good of a shooter. Plus, he's a good playmaker, all of that. The combination of his shooting and playmaking get him on the floor a lot. Also, the Hawks invested in him quite a bit, $11 million. That shows, it doesn't like guarantee anything, but it definitely shows that the Hawks like Luke Kennard. And pretty much when Trae is off the court, I'd like to play Kennard as much as possible. So there's that. Might not be possible to play him all the time without Trae, but that's something that I would be looking to do if I possibly could. So with that said, I think Kennard is pretty clearly the 8th player on this team. There's probably more of a debate between 9 and 10. I think between Mo Gay and Vit Krejci would be 9 and 10 in some order. Vit has a longer track record. He's played a lot more minutes, a lot more games than Mo at the NBA level and more rotation minutes, I would say. He shot it great the last 2 years from 3, has the passing chops, all of that. Also is a versatile, perimeter player with some length. But Mo Gay has incredible defensive flashes last year. Most defensive metrics were awesome. They're very, very enticing. He's got the size and the role potentially as well. I personally would project right now Mo Gay at number 9 and Vit at number 10. Part of that is the positional spectrum. Vit has more guys in front of him, basically, when it comes to not necessarily one position, but like the stylistic, like for instance, Trae, I just said Kennard, Alexander Walker, Dyson, and Ricochet are all very clearly ahead of Vit at the positions that he can actually play. Whereas Mo Gay is probably the backup 4 right now, honestly, at least when Okongwu is not playing with Porzingis, for example. But he's also the 3rd center right now, and there will be nights, almost certainly, where Porzingis is not available. So there's I would say there's more consistent playing time potentially out there for Mo in the front court defensively. So I will go with Mo at 9 and Vit at 10 after Kennard at 8. After that, I could see Kobe Buffkin playing top 10 minutes if they give him some of that backup point guard role. He has to earn it. It should not be given to him whatsoever. That's always possible that he could sort of wiggle his way in there. Also, you got Asa Newell, who could maybe get into the mix at some point in time. I think Asa probably needs an injury or two early in the year to actually play real minutes because I think Mo Gay is just better than him right now. No shot at Asa. I like Asa quite a bit, but he's a young player, a long way to go. I think Caleb Houston, maybe if that were to break down, but I think for me, there's a pretty clear top 10. I think Buffkin is clearly 11th on the chance to get minutes. I don't think Buffkin is necessarily guaranteed to play minutes at all, but we'll see. But there's at least the role that's active there, and then we'll see. But to answer the question one more time, Kennard 8th. I will go with Mo at 9 and Vit at 10. I would certainly understand arguments to the contrary, but there you go on that question. And again, too early for all this. I promise you that. As far as starting lineups are concerned, etc., they have 7 starters. They have a guy in Kennard that I think is a very firm 8, and then from there, it's pretty interesting actually. But they have pretty good depth on this roster, in my opinion. All right, more to come in a moment after a word from our partners. This show is brought to you by FanDuel Sportsbook. On August 26th is officially FanDuel Futures Day. It's a brand new holiday for football fans who live for bold predictions and preseason hunches. For just 24 hours, FanDuel is giving you deals on NFL season predictions. So whether you're calling your MVP award winner, eyeing a long shot division champion, or just ready to crown your Super Bowl champion before week 1 even kicks off, this is your moment with FanDuel. And for example, you take a flyer right now on the MVP race in the NFL. I'm looking at the board personally, and I'm actually looking a little bit at Joe Burrow as an interesting value at plus 600 or higher to win his first MVP award with Cincinnati. Also, you can go with longer odds on young quarterbacks, perhaps, like Michael Penix or Drake May or even Trevor Lawrence. If you want someone to go maybe crazy this year, break out and provide that long shot value. Also, you can crown your champion right now in August. I think the Chiefs are always good value at plus 800. They might not win it, but with Mahomes there, they're always in the mix. Baltimore is appealing as well. If you want to go crazy on the Falcons, they are plus 6,500 right now at FanDuel. Or you can even parlay your favorite division winners together. And honestly, if a dark horse is even better, if you're a Falcons fan like I am, you might have your eyes on the NFC South as always. And they have a real chance this year. Plus, if you want to go a little bit crazier, the Jags and the AFC South at plus 300 is pretty appetizing as well. Visit the FanDuel app today and start playing your future bets right now because Futures Day is one day and one day only. FanDuel, play your game. All right, question from Davide, who says, you and Josh discussed Jalen Johnson as a potential first-time All-Star, and I'm asking what the path is for Jalen to make his first All-Star game this season. So the reference here to Josh is actually to Josh Lloyd of Locked On Fantasy Basketball. I went on his podcast earlier this week, and the topic briefly came up about Jalen, and that's a reference there to Josh. By the way, listen to that show. Josh does a great job on the Locked On Fantasy side. Also does a great job just covering the league overall, far beyond fantasy. So recommend that for sure. He's a very smart analyst about the league. But one of the go-to topics in the league, like right now when there's kind of quiet around the league, is like, all right, who will be an all-star this coming season that's never been one before? I think Jalen is definitely a candidate to be a first-time all-star this year. Is he the only candidate? No, but he's a candidate. Other candidates, it's not going to be everybody, but I would say Franz Wagner is one. Jamal Murray still hasn't been an all-star. Desmond Bane, Chet Holmgren, Derek White. Like, there are more guys that are out there that certainly could be first-time all-stars. Young guys, maybe even making leaps, etc. But Jalen is in that firm first tier, I would say, of guys who could make all-star teams this year. I would say overall, his case comes down to like three different things. Number one, his own play and his own stats. That's number one. Number two is the Hawks' record and performance. And number three is just health for Jalen, obviously. So last year, Jalen averaged 18.9 points, 10 rebounds, and 5 assists per game. There were 4 players in the entire NBA who averaged at least that many points, rebounds, and assists per game. It was Jokic, it was Giannis, it was Domantas Sabonis, and it was Jalen. That was the whole list. If you want to add in Alperen Şengün, who fell just short of the assist margin, sure, that's 5. But Sabonis did not make the All-Star team last year, but he is a 3-time All-Star. Şengün made it last year. Obviously, Jokic and Giannis made the All-Star team all the time, as they should. So I say all that because I think Jalen could probably make the All-Star team this coming season, even if he just put up the same numbers. One more time. If Jalen just put up the same numbers as last year, he could very easily make the All-Star team. That's a pretty good start, honestly. Would it help him to average 20 a game, that shiny big 2 in front of your number at points per game? Sure. But his rebounding is excellent. His passing at the 4 is very, very strong. He makes highlight plays, which definitely helps get attention. I would say the one area maybe would be efficiency going up a little bit, making more threes, making more 2s, honestly, even as well. But doesn't need some huge jump. That's important. He does not need to have some massive leap in his numbers to make the All-Star team. If he averages 19 and 10 and 5, or he averages 29 and 5, that's all-star level production on a good team. Now, that brings us to the second part of this. The team success part is sometimes controversial. And occasionally, I would say it's not in a player's control. Like, I am not a zealot about this. There can be a player having an all-star season that's on a bad team. That is very possible. It's not a sport where you can dominate all on your own. Now, basketball is much more individual than some sports are, but you still need a supporting cast. So Jalen could have an awesome season. The Hawks could be losing, and it won't be his fault necessarily. Like, if Trae goes down and Jalen averages 25 and 5, like, I don't know. We'll see. Regardless, though, if you want to live in the real world, and I tend to want to live in the real world, players do undisputedly get more individual recognition and awards and selections when their teams win. That's just the reality. Not up for debate. It's just what happens. If the Hawks are 500 when the All-Star team is picked in January, February, it will be harder for Jalen to make it. Now, can he make it? Yes, but it will be harder for him. If the Hawks are winning at a top 3 in the East level, at that point, he is much more likely to make it. That's just the reality of the situation. So it does matter. As a reminder, coaches are the ones that vote on the reserves in the All-Star game. So that's winning is important to coaches. Let's just say that as well. And the last thing is health. So we know the deal here. Obviously, Jalen's played 92 games combined the last 2 years. It does matter if a guy is healthy and playing when the actual voting is happening. Like, if you're injured during the voting period, there's been studies that will say that actually hurts you, which doesn't necessarily make sense to me, but it is what it is. The biggest thing is he has to be playing. Like, stay on the court, play enough to qualify for leaderboards and contribute at a high level to winning teams, etc. So overall, I think the path for Jalen is very clear. He has a real chance to be an all-star. All he has to do is do what he did last year and also have the team win some more games. If he averages 20, 10 and 5, 19, 10 and 5, 18, 11 and 5, whatever it's going to be, and the Hawks win, he has a really good pathway. So hopefully that answers the question as to what he has to do. And again, listen to Josh Lloyd. That was a fun conversation with myself and Josh. All right, next question comes from Heyo Kind of Person, and they ask, is there any serious concern about Trae's injury from last season? I listened to the Who Collective podcast, and they brought it up. That wasn't even on my radar. I also was happy to hear them predict a top 4 finish for us. So let's get the background first. If you missed this somehow last year, Trae missed a game in Boston on November 12th with right Achilles tendonitis. Eventually, the team got fined for him not playing in that game. Part of that was that he is part of the player participation policy, which only applies to star players. Also, it was an NBA Cup game, and the league, I guess, determined in their minds that he could have played. Now, could he have played? Probably, but he actually was hurt. That's an important designation. He actually was hurt. It wasn't fake. It wasn't made up. He was hurt. And the Hawks were pissed. We're being honest about that. The Hawks were very mad about that, and they listed him as probable for every game the rest of the year, which I actually thought was kind of petty, but also tremendous. And I endorsed that. I would have done the same thing. It was silly, but it was also like, hey, you want to list him? We'll list him. Anyway, he missed 5 more games after that during the year. 1 with a heel contusion, 1 with a rib contusion, 1 with a hamstring tightness, 1 with a quad contusion, and then the last game of the year, he sat for rest because it didn't matter against Orlando. So he played in 76 games total last year. And aside from the freak hand injury that he had in February 2024 that he had to have surgery on, he has been incredibly durable, especially for a small guard. So by season, he has missed the following games. As a rookie, he missed 1 game. Sophomore, 7 games. Third season, 9 games. Fourth season, 6 games. Fifth season, 9 games. Then he missed 28 with the hand surgery. And then last year, he missed 6 games. And again, really only 5 because game 82 was meaningless. So plus, he's played in 27 of 29 career playoff games. The only 2 that he missed were after the infamous incident where he slipped on the ref in 2021. So he has been very, very durable. Now, to the question about quote-unquote serious concern about the injury, I would say no. He was less than 100% last year for a large portion of the year. The Achilles soreness he was having couldn't just heal without resting for a while, and he wasn't going to do that, obviously, in the middle of the season. So now, though, he's had the whole summer off. The offseason is going to be about 6 months for the Hawks this year. That's a long time after a play and loss. So lots of time to get healthy. I think he'll be healthy going into the season. That does not mean he'll be perfect forever. He's getting older. That definitely does matter. The Achilles soreness or whatever it was, tightness or tendinopathy, tendonitis, whatever it is, might linger, but I think he is healthy from what I've heard. He'll go into the year healthy and should be a little bit more bursty and athletic as a result of not being hampered by the injury. So just to recap, he missed that time. It was kind of weird, the injury listings, but he actually was banged up. He could play. He did play. He did play well at an all-star level, but I think he'll be a little bit healthier going into the season than he actually was at the end of last year. All right, question from Hogan, who says, I'm really interested in how you think we'll manage the front court this year. Bringing in a guy like Porzingis to come off the bench feels odd, but Okongwu 1,000% earned that position, in my opinion. Also knowing we need more depth, do you see an addition coming in for the Hawks? All right, in case we have new listeners, or maybe listeners that might have missed this previously, I am obliged to begin this answer with a bit that I do regularly, but it's also one that I believe in. I don't care very much about who starts. And people, historically, almost everyone cares more than I do about this. I'm not saying it doesn't matter at all. It matters a little bit, but it matters way less than people think. I think who plays more minutes and who closes games both matter more than who starts. I do get it. Like there's some cachet to starting. I understand that. As I said earlier on the pod, on this show, they have 7 starters for me. So it won't bother me much if they start Okongwu, nor will it bother me if they start Porzingis. As I said with Josh Lloyd, I think that one of them will start, not both. I think it will start Ricochet at the 3 and Jalen at the 4. But that's not in stone either. So we'll see what happens between now and the season. Now, the next thing. I am quite high on Okongwu compared to a lot of people. I think he was very, very good last year in the back half of the season in particular. I think he's a quality starting center. Like not like an elite guy, but a good player on a good contract. And he's young, improving, all of that. It's also fair to note that Porzingis, the best version, the healthy version, which is, of course, you're not guaranteed to get that, is the better player. Like, so if you're just saying, like, all right, let's assume health, who's better? It's Porzingis. Like, he's really good when he's actually healthy. At the same time, Porzingis has massive durability issues. We know that. He didn't finish last year, the mystery illness. He has averaged 50.1 games per season in 10 NBA years. That's not a ton of games. Now, it's not 0 games, but he's missed like almost half the season on average. Okongwu does have some injury stuff early in his career as well, but he's been younger and much more durable, including last season, than Porzingis. And obviously, there is a school of thought that makes sense that Okongwu starting could keep the mileage down on Porzingis as well. Reasonable. On the other side of that, some players really want to start. There could be politics about this. Porzingis has currently started 500 out of 501 NBA games. He has been a starter his entire career. So him being off the bench would be new for him. Doesn't mean he won't do it or that he would be unhappy with it. We don't know at this point in time. It would just be a change for him. So maybe the pathway is that Porzingis starts the games that he plays in, Okongwu starts the games that he doesn't play in, and comes off the bench when he plays, etc. If Jalen were to miss time, you can start both those guys together. But regardless, I am pretty confident that one of the two centers will be playing at a position for basically every relevant minute that they're able to play. That's the advantage of having two starting centers. Okongwu will play a lot of games, hopefully, but not probably every game. Porzingis will miss some time as well. They can play it where one of them is on the court at basically all times, which is a good idea. On the other point about depth, I discussed this a lot already, but I would lean towards maybe signing a center potentially with their last roster spot. We don't know if they're going to fill it at all, much less with a center, but it's up in the air right now. I would say right now, Mo Gay is the third center pretty clearly. I like Mo a lot. I think defensively he was very impressive last year. For me, he's probably more of a 4. The Hawks have also viewed him that way in the past, but he could at least play center on defense, and you're okay. Like playing with Jalen, you're fine. Playing with whoever, you're fine. But let's not forget this as well. Mo Gay has had a bunch of injury issues as well early in his career. If you go back to the fourth center, it's probably Asa Newell, who's a skinny 19-year-old rookie who also is probably more of a 4 than a 5 right now. So the Hawks basically have two centers, Okongwu, Porzingis, and then they have two kind of combo bigs in Gay and Newell. That's it for their front court depth right now. That's kind of scary when you talk about Porzingis being an injury risk. So overall, it will not surprise me at all if they sign a center between now and opening night. Obviously, the dream would be if something breaks down in Golden State that Al Horford becomes available. I get that. But more practically, Precious Achiuwa, Thomas Bryant, like there's some names out there. I won't rehash all that now. But you have to feel great about having two real starting centers. Like that's a very nice luxury to have. You feel good about Mo Gay, I think, even out of position a little bit. But the depth is challenging beyond that. So they might want to actually bring in somebody a little bit more to safeguard that. But overall, again, I don't really care as much as everybody else does about starting lineups. It matters a little bit for sure, but the depth piece is more intriguing for me. All right, I'm going to get out of here now after a slightly shortened version of the podcast, but stay tuned for a new episode. After the schedule comes out on Thursday, I will have a breakdown, as I always would, of the 82-game slate, the difficulty of it, some of the key matchups, NBA Cup stuff, travel, back-to-backs, national TV. All of that will be on that podcast on Thursday into Friday. And as a programming note, we'll be rolling along with at least 3 episodes per week, every week, all the way until training camp. So we'll stay tuned for that. Please subscribe to Locked on Hawks anywhere you find podcasts. Ratings and reviews appreciated as well. Like the podcast on YouTube, follow the show on Apple and Spotify, et cetera, et cetera. The show is also on X/Twitter at Locked on Hawks. I am there at BT Rowland. I'm also on Blue Sky at BT Rowland. You can follow my non-podcast coverage of the Hawks at patreon.com/BT Rowland. All right, everybody, enjoy the rest of your week. We'll be back after the schedule comes out on Thursday, and we'll see you all next time.